Hello, everyone. Today I'd like to talk about Cliff Richard and more specifically, why he didn't really hit it big in the US. Now, Cliff Richard, I know he had a couple of hit songs here, Devil Woman being his biggest one, and that came out in like the mid 70s, and then that was a follow up, We Don't Talk Anymore, I think either early 80s or late 70s. Outside of those two, I mean, literally, you won't hear anyone in the US that would know, like a casual music listener, and especially in that era, growing up in that era, that would know Cliff Richard outside of those two songs. And I'm trying to figure out why, mainly because I wouldn't care for an artist like Cliff Richard, but knowing that not only he was huge in the UK and pretty much majority of the European countries, but he was also huge practically everywhere outside of the U.S. I know a lot of people like from Asian countries that know Cliff Richard or know the music. They when you say Cliff Richard, they know the music. And it's funny because I always thought to myself, I know from a music perspective, I know all these artists and so forth, but Cliff Richard, I never knew. Now, Devil Woman, I remember as a kid hearing that song from time to time on the like a what was it a which the rock classic rock station, and even after a few listens of Devil Woman, I didn't really know who that was. I mean, at the time, I probably thought it was another artist or an artist that had a one hit wonder or something like that, and I never really caught the name Cliff Richard. So Cliff Richard never that name just never went to my radar until like when I really got into music and then was able to follow up on certain songs, certain artists, and so forth. That I realized Devil Woman was Cliff Richard. Now I'm just trying to figure out why, besides those two songs, that he never really had a hit here, yet he was so popular everywhere else. And for before YouTube and all that, this is one of the albums that I was able to get, and from here, this is actually a two CD collection, and even the most popular song that I knew, the Devil Woman, wasn't even on this set. So I was pretty much playing with fire, grabbing supposedly his greatest hits on two CDs and having to listen through all of them. And all I can say is this: when at the time listening to this, is that he was kind of like an Elvis, Buddy Holly type sound early on, at least the first disc. So it's basically like early '60s. So he had that like Elvis vibe being the sound, that type of sound. And I'm not just talking about the voice or anything. It's just the musically, sonically. It's kind of like the origins of rock and roll. Like if we started from Elvis, it had some chubby checker type flavor to it, things like that. That type of style. Now, I'm not sure if I read through this or found out somewhere, but when he started Cliff Richard, it was really Cliff Richard and the Shadows. Now, when I found out the Shadows, the band, was backing Cliff Richard, I knew the Shadows, believe it or not. I knew the Shadows more than Cliff Richard, and mainly because of Apache, that song. But I knew them as an instrumental band, and they were really, for me, growing up, they were one of my favorite instrumental bands. I mean, I felt like the Ventures, Santo and Johnny, and so forth. But I was able to, maybe from the library, get the Shadows greatest hits or something. I really like their instrumentals. They're pretty, from a technical standpoint, very good, clean sounding. And this is like, again, like late '50s, early '60s type playing. So to me, they're very good. And I think Hank is very influential to a lot of guitarists back in the day. So I'm sure he was a model for a lot of the future guitarists at that time that came out listening to the Shadows. So knowing that Cliff Richard had a band and the Shadows was backing them, I can kind of see that the route they were taking, they should be pretty good, right? Because to me, if you have a band like the Shadows backing you, music from from an instrumental standpoint should be pretty good, no matter what. Now, what like kind of listening through this and then doing more research later on about Cliff Richard, I realized he actually predates the Beatles. Not only like his music, like when I mentioned stylistically, he's kind of like Elvis. I think basically when Elvis came out, and then he came out like not too long after, and from what I understand, he kind of mimicked or maybe a song or two from Elvis, that style, and then just kind of went with it. So that's why his early years with the Shadows, it always sounded kind of like an Elvis Presley song. Now, here's the issue. When you listen to Elvis, you know his music, you know his style, you know his vibe, you know everything. With Cliff Richard early on, it sounds like Elvis. It sounds more like an imitation, trying to be like Elvis, but not there. And that's the thing I have with Cliff Richard is there's nothing signature about the music. I mean, the playing is okay, but music, like from a music standpoint, like the melody, the rhythm, so forth, it's just meh to me, just very mid. Now Elvis, you his style of music, he puts his signature stuff to it, and that's what makes Elvis Elvis. I mean, I think both are the same too. Both like don't really write their own music or anything like that. They take other people's music or have someone write music for them. The thing with Elvis is whatever you give him and he does it, it's pretty much his song. I mean, regardless if it's a cover or it's been covered many times and then he just decides to cover it, Elvis that is. When he does it, technically speaking, that song the version you want to listen to is Elvis. I mean, that's what makes Elvis great. I mean, it's not just the moves, the dancing, and all that. It's the whole package. It's the music. He's fantastic of arranging all that. Now with Cliff Richard's music, at least early on, it's kind of a mix of not just nothing. It's mid in a sense. There's nothing memorable, and again, a lot of the music sounds kind of like Elvis, but it's not Elvis, first of all, and it doesn't have that, something that stands out. It just, it's one of those goes in one ear, comes the other. It's Elvis-like, but not close, that type of thing. So, but yet he's popular in the UK and Europe and so forth. And I kind of understand, I could get that. I mean, if he was the originator of that Elvis style music in the UK, like if UK first heard of Cliff Richard and not Elvis, and they got into that style of music, I can understand why he's popular. Now, after listening through his catalog, at least through here, through the 80s, he's really, I don't know. I put it this way. I can totally understand why he's not popular here, just based off going through his supposed greatest hits from like 2 decades or so. There's just nothing memorable. Even his two popular songs like Devil Woman and the other one, which I can't remember the name now, but it's okay. I mean, if Devil Woman is his best song, you could tell, for me at least, he's going to be one of those like mid to like unmemorable, maybe a one-hit wonder type of artist. And even if he was based out of the U.S., and let's say his whole career started in the U.S., I can see it being almost the same type of career where maybe he gets mentioned, maybe more people would know about Cliff Richard, but from a music catalog standpoint, and he's more of like a yeah, I know him. I know a couple songs, but that's pretty much it. He won't be like a superstar anywhere close to Elvis or anything like that. So that's from listening to it. Now, I don't understand why he's popular in other countries outside of Europe, like in Asia. I know in the Philippines, I have a lot of Filipino friends that they know Cliff Richard, or at least they have family members like parents or something that know Cliff Richard. I don't get it. Maybe at the time they're trying to follow music, I don't know, from the US, but also from the UK, and whatever was a hit in the UK would also be a hit there. Maybe that's why they play it. I don't know, but it's he's just been mid. Now, ironically, his best song to me is not even Devil Woman, okay? It's this song. And I'll play it for you. If you probably would already know, it's also a duet, but it's this one. Okay, it's the duet with Olivia Newton-John, the Xanadu soundtrack. So suddenly, and I think I never seen this song in any compilation of Cliff Richard. Maybe I haven't seen all of his compilations, obviously, but and when this song comes up, it's usually just, oh, I know it's Olivia Newton-John and another singer, right? It just happens to be Cliff Richard. That's strange. So that song is really tied to Olivia Newton-John. It's kind of her own song, and ironically, also that's kind of my favorite song from Olivia. And Olivia has a nice catalog of songs. So, having said everything I just said, I'm trying to compare other artists that were huge outside the U.S. They might have a hit song or two in the U.S., but majority they're well known, especially their catalog and so forth outside the U.S. First thing comes to mind, and I think it comes close. It's not really apples to apples, but comes close is ABBA. And I talked about ABBA in another video. I think it was the most popular, most perfect pop song. Go watch that. But ABBA here, their only real hit song was Dancing Queen, right? And in terms of being charted, and their other songs, I don't know if anything charted in the U.S. If they did, they weren't probably in the top 40. I could be wrong. The only thing that I could think of that would do it would be Take a Chance on Me. But the thing with ABBA is this. When you listen to their music, their entire catalog, you love it. And ABBA's another thing where I don't know why they weren't even bigger here. If you just listen to their music, they should have been like monsters here, no matter what. I mean, you listen to their catalog, well, personally, and I think majority of most people would say the same thing, that they love ABBA, or at least they know ABBA, they like ABBA. Cliff Richard, it's just the opposite. You listen to the entire catalog, and you're like, man, who is this guy? It's just the songs aren't bad, but they're not memorable, and I think it's just a combination of the songs he get, the songwriting, the production, all kinds of stuff. I think it's just mixed in there, and he's just mid. And I think whatever he was popular in the beginning, in like late 50s or something in the UK or so and so forth, I think all his fans were just kind of just always making sure he's popular during his time, through the 80s, I would assume. Even though his music might be meh, you would think the Beatles and later on, like all the music that came out, like the British Invasion 2, his music doesn't come close, Cliff Richards that is, doesn't come close to any of the good stuff that came out those periods. Yet he's still popular, or at that very popular at that time, and outside the UK too. So I think it's more like the initial impression, you make that first great impression and it will always follow you. I think he's just riding that success, all the way through. And I gotta admit, his mid '70s stuff, the stuff that actually hit in the U.S., it's listenable. It's okay. It's not bad. I think it might slightly be a little better than his early years with the Shadows. Mainly, even though I like that style of music better, his early years. But again, his early years is just not memorable at all. It's just one ear and out the other ears. So anyway, that's why I think Cliff Richard. I can understand why he was never popular in the U.S. And personally, in my personal opinion, from just listening to his music and then even on YouTube, so other stuff that's not on the 2 CDs I have, I can understand why he's just not popular here. Now, just being popular everywhere else or majority of places outside the U.S. beats me. I really don't know. But I'm not here to diss Cliff Richard by any means. It's not an artist I would be interested in or follow. And his music is come and go. I mean, I wouldn't. I have never picked that CD up in a long time. Put it this way, and so it's not for me. But I just don't understand why he was that popular to begin with. But the U.S., not in a bad way, was correct in terms of hit music and popularity. I think the U.S. was more sane or more correct, to put it this way, than what the rest of the world saw in Cliff Richard. But again, that's just me. And I'm not here to diss. I'm just trying to figure out why. That's all. All right. That's all I had. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Bye.